Hello. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried putting elements side by side and you spend so many of your time, you spend time fighting with CSS? Maybe you have tried aligning a logo, a navigation menu, or you try creating cards in a row, or you try centering content perfectly, or you try to build model website layout. Now, I want to welcome you to the reason Flexbox was created. And today, we are going to be learning one of the most powerful layout system in model web development. Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we learned CSS positioning, we learned how developers control where elements appear in the web page, and today we are going to be learning how model developers build layouts. So if you look at what is here, this is all what we did in our previous class. I did this because I wanted to show you this screw, how we can make this a navbar sticky at the top. That's the main reason why I just did this, so that we can have a text that we can screw through. But what I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to clear it to this extent. So don't forget, you start your server and you'll be able to do all this. Now, Flexbox stands for Flexible Box Layout. That's what Flexbox stands for, and you don't worry, you don't need to memorize what Flexbox stands for. You just need to know how to use it, what you can use it to achieve. Flexbox help us to arrange, align, and distribute elements easily. Now, before we go deeper into Flexbox, I want us to understand parents and child elements. I would like us to understand that before we go into Flexbox. Now, parents. I'm just going to show you an example of parents and child so that you'll be able to understand. Let me go here. Let me also clear this my CSS. When we get into Flexbox, we are going to be creating another one. So let me just clear it. So inside here now, I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by parents and child elements. Now, the first I want to have here is a div, and I'm going to call this, let me just call it container. As you can see, container. I want to have another one inside of it, and let me call it box. Let me just this box, let me just say HTML. I go down, I say CSS. If you have been following the course, you will know how I'm just copying, duplicating the line to the next line that is below it. If you have been following the course, I've showed you how I'm doing that. You should be able to do it. So now I have created these three boxes inside this container element. Now the container here is the parent element. The container here is the parent. Why the boxes inside of this container is the child to this element. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's just how it is, and I believe you will understand with time, because you are going to be doing a lot of things where you say parent, when you say child. If you are learning props, you call parents, you call child. Okay, let me not confuse you with all that for now. Let's just focus on what we are doing for now. The container here is the parent. Why the boxes inside of this container, they are all the child to this parent. Now I want to show you how we can activate Flexbox. And one thing you should know is that Flexbox always apply to the parent. That's something you really need to understand before you go deeper into CSS. That's why you see I created a parent and I created the child, and I explained it to you because I know that Flexbox is applied to the parent. Now, how can we activate Flexbox and use it? Let's just do a little CSS here. You can see right here, you are seeing my HTML, CSS and JavaScript that I've listed here. But let's style this and make it beautiful. Now, I believe you did not forget to target it because it's a class. Target it, we use dot container, which is this. Now, when I get in here, to activate Flexbox, the first thing I do is to say display flex. With this now, I have activated Flexbox. Just look at what happened here when I do display flex. You can see now that everything have changed direction to row. You can see immediately I say display flex, say everything change direction to row. They become side by side to each other. These are what this Flexbox is doing here. It's now what is happening here is making all these child elements that is inside this container is changing their direction to be flex. And the default of this flex, if we did specify where we want it to go, the default is row. That's why I see that everything here change side by side, because the default is row. And if you don't understand what I mean by the default is row, what I'm just saying that default is horizontally. That's the default way. Flexbox works horizontally or vertically. That's what two-way Flexbox works. I'm going to show you how we can change this from the default way to how we want it to be. But before we go that, I want to show you justify content. Justify content is also a Flexbox property, and this is very useful and important in Flexbox. Just look at what will happen when I say justify content and I say center. You see what happened? And you see what happened? What this justify content is doing now is centering our boxes, is centering all these parents, that is all these parents elements here to be center of our page. If you measure this, if you want to do that, you find out that this text here is now centered in our page. Look, from here to here, and the elements are centered. That's what this justify content is helping us to achieve. If you don't want to do center or you want to explore others, you can do justify content. Should I say, let me first say flex start. You can see what happened. Everything is at the start. You can also do flex end. You can see everything move at the ending side. That's just what justify content, things we can do with justify content. You can also do space between. You can see space between. Now you give space between each element. The first one, you space. The second one, space. The third one, again. That's what justify content is helping us to do. We are giving space between each element or each boxes that is here. Now let's also check another one here, which is also justify content space around. So you can also see what justify content space around is doing. Just like the name implies, you add space around each element. One, the space around it, the same size for this, and for this. That's what justify content space around. When we start our project, you are going to see us using this a lot. Now, those are some of the properties that justify content help us, things that the justify content help us to do. Now, what we have been controlling here is the main axis. The main axis is what we have been controlling here. Now, I want us to control the cross axis also. Now, how do we control the cross axis? Let me just remove the justify content here, and let me show you how we can control the cross axis. Now, I'm going to use another one called align items. Then I'm going to say center. So if you look at it here now, this is not working. Let me see. Okay, the main reason why it's not working is because we have to give it a height. I'm just going to say height VH. What I mean by VH is let me say 100 VH. What I mean by VH is 100 view height. That's just what it means here. If you remember, in here we have specified the viewports here that say it should scale. This is what is making it responsive in here. And when I'm doing this VH here, it's going to target my screen, and my entire screen is going to make this 100%. It's going to make the height 100%. That means my entire screen is going to be seeing this. It's going to be taking over 100% of my entire screen. That's just what this VH means there. So if my screen is bigger, it's going to still be at the center. It's going to still be at the center. The height is going to make it responsive, more responsive that way. Now you can see what I've just did here, and what I've done here is that I've made align items to be centered. The justify content we did was targeting it horizontally, right? From here to here, it kept it at the center. Now the align items is targeting it vertically, keeping it here at the center. That's just the difference between two of them. And all what we did in the justify content, we can still also do it in our align items. So I can just say flex start. They are always suggesting that for me. I can say flex start. You can see it's at the beginning. I can also say flex end. Also say flex end. You can see this is it bottom here, that is down there. You can see it's down here. That's just the same thing. The flex item and the align, the justify content. The justify content is targeting it horizontally. The align items is targeting the items vertically. And that's all the two difference between two of them. And you should be able to know when to use the one that you need. Now, let's move into flex direction. Now, what I've been doing here is that, let me remove all this. What I've been doing here is that I'm just maintaining the default direction that this flex is giving me. I want to also show you that we have the power to change the direction to be wherever we want it to be. Now, the first one I'm going to show you is the vertical direction. I'm just going to say flex direction. Don't forget, you have to put the flex, you have to activate it to be able to use all these flex box properties. We have to first say display flex to activate it. After that, we can now say flex direction column. You can see I've changed it from the default, which is row, to column. So in here, if I just come back just to show you, if I just say row here to maintain that default, because row is the default. Here now I can just say column, and you can see I changed it to be in column. You can also do something like row reverse. Let me show you. Row reverse. You can see what happened. Row reverse, it's moved from here to here, and if you look at here, the first one here is HTML, the second one is CSS, the third one is JavaScript. What we just did here, we reversed it. First one becomes JavaScript, second one CSS, and third one HTML. That's what we just did here. That's what the row reverse is just doing here. We also have column reverse. Column reverse, you can also see column reverse. You can see it change. It changed JavaScript, start from JavaScript. Instead of starting from up to down, it started from down and coming up. That's just things we can achieve using the display in our Flexbox and the flex direction. Another thing I want to show you that we'll have access to when using Flexbox is the gap. If you look at this now, there's no gap there. Let me just change it to column. If you look at it now, there's no gap. Now imagine you want space to be around it. You want all of them to have space. You can just come in here. Just because I want it to look pretty, let me add a background color to it. So I'm just going to target the box. I'm going to add a background color to the box. I'm just going to say light blue. Now you can see all the box have background color now. Now I'm going to say gap here. I'm going to say 30 pixels. So you can see what we just did here now. We just added gap to it. What this gap is doing is just adding space between all these elements, all these child elements that's inside this container. That's what child is doing. That's what the gap is doing there. It's helping us to achieve. Now, gap is the appropriate way to do spacing. When you use gap now, there is no element here. But when you are using padding or margin to do your spacing, you are not actually creating space, right? You are making that element bigger. You are just shifting that element, making it to shift direction. But when you see gap, nothing is here again. All these spaces are totally empty. No elements are there. That's things we can do with gap. So gap is more important and more advised to use gap for your spacing rather than using padding, just using padding or using margin to shift an element. So gap is more important, especially when you are using Flexbox. Now we are going to work on a project, but before we work on that project, I just want us to also look at advanced Flexbox, right? Before we start building a project, right? I don't want you to be curious. I know you are curious to start building beautiful websites, but just for few more videos, you will start building a website. We are going to build a professional website together. You see how everything is being structured in the original, or should I say, in a beautiful model layout of a website. I also want us to look at a few things before we go into that. So in the next video, we are going to be taking our Flexbox skills even more further. We are going to be learning how elements grows and how we can shrink elements, how we can wrap elements, and how we can make our elements adapt to different screen size. Like naturally, we can make our elements adapt to different screen size, just like making it responsive, so that when your website is viewed from a big screen, your content is going to be viewed well. When it's in a small screen, your content is are still going to display very properly. We are going to look all that in our next class, and I will see you in the next lesson.